traditional teacher used to sit and teach, but the 21st century teacher has to be constantly moving and experimenting in his classroom. The 21st century teacher has to consider his learner as an initiator of teaching learning process rather than a receptor. Then a teacher in the 21st century has to be himself technology enhanced and multimedia driven rather than simply paper pencil driven or chalk and talk method. The teacher today has to be a problem solver. He has to discuss problems in the classroom and enable and empower his students to find a solution to the problems rather than giving them problems on the board to solve. The teacher in the 21st century has to consider questions as primary and not look out for answers because he is trying to promote questioning skills among his students, critical thinking. Then a teacher in the 21st century will not consider anything as right or wrong. For him, everything is open and subject to justification. Whereas the traditional teacher always had this in mind, that there is a fixed right answer to every question. And finally, the teacher in the 21st century has to go in for immediate gratification, and there are different ways of showing this gratification to his students rather than waiting for the D-Day of report card distribution and then labeling and tabooing his students as weak learners, brilliant learners, etc., etc. Next, sir. Therefore, we can sum up that the challenges of teaching in the 21st century would be, number one, personalization, wherein a teacher has to understand that one size fits all becomes absolutely redundant in today's scenario. Secondly, classroom management is a big challenge because in today's classroom, the learners are equally aware, equally educated, equally informed, and maybe sometimes slightly more than the teacher. Besides, the teacher also has to take up the mammoth responsibility of spreading global awareness among his students in order to make them future-ready citizens. Besides, there is digitalization in every nook and corner of his classroom. And the irony is that the students sitting in the classroom are more digitally smart than the teacher on several occasions. Besides, the teacher has to also inculcate a culture of mindfulness in the classroom. He has to promote sustainability in the classroom. Therefore, in today's world, it is equally responsibility of a teacher to make his students ready to be accepting failures in life gracefully. They should be able to say no. They should be able to accept failures as pillars of learning stones. Besides, the content and curriculum has undergone radical changes in the 21st century, which again, if we go through the NEP, we'll be very clearly aware of. Therefore, it's not only enough that we as leaders understand the curriculum and go to the depth of it, but we also have to trickle it down to the teachers in the classroom, because until and unless they understand the essence of this new curriculum, they won't be able to deliver the goods in the classroom. And finally, social emotional learning has come up in a very, very big way. And obviously, it's a very, very positive thing. Therefore, today's teacher will not be in a position to taboo a child, to make a child, or to give corporal punishment to a child for not being able to do anything properly as per his expectations. Rather, the teacher has to give more attention to empower and enable that child to do it better, to perform the task better. Finally, let's come to discuss a few solutions. So what are the solutions and what is the way forward for all educators? So there are certain teaching strategies which an effective educator should actually imbibe. He should be able to teach all learners, which is again inclusive education as per the new education policy. So he should be able to adopt differentiated teaching learning styles. He should be able to implement and incorporate technology into the classroom. So it's not enough to understand and know technology. He has to be able to implement it at the right time in the right manner. He should be able to foster student relationships by facilitating interpersonal relationships within the classroom. Because today's world is gradually becoming an isolated world for our kids. They are only counting friends on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So it's very important that as a teacher, we are able to give that human touch to our students. Besides, the teacher has to be forward thinking and able to anticipate the future and accordingly prepare his students for the unknown situation based on current trends. Finally, the teacher himself has to be able to embrace the change positively and adapt to it. And therefore, there are certain methods and certain teaching learning styles and policies and strategies which every 21st century teacher should know, and which includes flipped classroom, design thinking, gamification, cooperative learning, project-based learning, competency-based learning, problem-based learning, and thinking-based learning. And I'm sure if we have gone through the NEP, in different tenets of the NEP, these are the very things which have come up in different ways. Therefore, I would like to conclude by saying that education is not the filling of a bucket, but the lighting of a fire, as rightly said by W.B. Yeats. And we have to remember that in today's scenario, the students need to learn how to learn and how to solve problems, and they should be encouraged to learn independently. Secondly, we need to completely reimagine the education scenario and break down the barriers that exist between education and the real world. And finally, we need to bring the working world into the education sector much earlier and take education into the working world. Only then will we be able to empower our students to become 21st century learners and future ready global citizens. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Samita ma'am. A lot of teachers during these sessions have asked this question. How they need to prepare themselves. According to NEP. So you, in a wonderful way, you explain those methods, those challenges, solutions, what teachers need to do. How they can prepare themselves. For the coming time. You began with the important and four C's. What kind of approach teachers need to adopt post NEP implementation and 21st century. Then you explain in a wonderful way the role of teachers in 21st century. They are going to be facilitators, collaborators, prompters, participants, and co-learners. It is going to be two-dimensional now, not just one-dimensional now. You also talked about expectations from teachers. And you use that wonderful line, it is not enough for teachers to be masters in their subject, but they need to be artistic in their ways of teaching. You also talked about those methods, those, what makes a teacher a good teacher. You also talked about challenges for teachers, in teaching in 21st century. You also, in a very useful way, you explain difference between traditional teachers and the modernist teachers of 21st century. You also talked about solutions, how to move way forward. Then in the end, you talked about those methodologies which every 21st century teacher must know, must adopt, must become expert of. So big thanks, Samita ma'am, for sharing these wonderful thoughts. So it was a very, very useful talk from teachers' training point of view. Big thanks, ma'am. Will be coming back to you with questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And now, with this, I would request Dr. Kishore Rajaji, Dr. Raja, if you can have your thoughts, your ideas.
Yeah. So, good afternoon to everyone. So, my speech mostly on coding and innovation and the discovery. So, I made it my speech into two parts. So one is coding, and then about the innovation and the discovery. So today, when you look at the NEP, National Educational Policy, so they introduce a coding in the class 16. So this makes a revolutionary changes in the education system of India. So the students now we have more control control than ever on the subject they want to learn in the school. So I think NECP 2020 has received positive reactions from the people in the education sector, and it is hoped that changes will provide a much required positive push to the education sector and addresses many issues that affect the education today. So one of the most talked about the changes in the new educational policy is the introduction of coding from class 6. So this move have received wide spread support from the present generation of educators, with many terming into their favorite part of the policy. So this has been a favorite and one of the most feature policy in the national education policy. So the coding is definitely you need to take up in the school level, because yeah, when you want to learn the 21st century skills, definitely without the coding you cannot move on into the digital world. So I am taking into the positive sides of digital world, not the negative sides. So I can give one best example. So even I think 2 years or 3 years back, even I don't know how to cook any food. Now I can look at the YouTube. I cook also many food. So this is the positive sides of the digital world. So we have to make the students to learn the digital life into the positive territory, not in the negative territory. So one of such a thing is the coding, which which is going to be introduced in the class 6. So the purely the coding, if you look at the background of the coding, is purely a mathematical one. So when you code, the students are able to think in a different way. You can go for in a creativity way, and you can think how to solve the problem. Even I think you are writing a coding for a different devices nowadays. I think the computers are absolute. Is going to be absolute within 5 years, because the new devices are evolved day by day. Even that devices you have to code, then only you will run the system. So basically when you look at the device, there are two parts. I'm going into a little bit technically. So when you look at any device, not the computer, any computing device, that requires the hardware and the software. So the hardware is mostly the electronic parts, and the software is the coding. So like you can think about the coding is a foreign language. So when you learn, so it helps definitely in the positive side. So this is why the NEP take up this coding subject into the school level. So now we will see the what are the benefits that the students going to have. So the one of the benefit, because we in the next 21st century we mostly we relies on the digital tool. Definitely this coding will help to code a different devices. And mostly everybody now the talking about the artificial intelligence. So you are automate all the systems. Definitely all the manual tasks are going to be automated. Definitely the students who are adapt to at the coding will help and revolutionizing the change through this technology. And the coding helps the students to develop the analytical mindset and problem solving attitude and the creativity in the children. So it has a good effect on developing the brains. The teaching coding from the class will help the India, not only the student, it helps the India develop the better engineers who will bring in the new ideas and the solutions. This is how the coding helps the students to moving into the digital life. Now I am coming to the next part. I am talking about the innovation and discovery. So I think the both are the different one. I can give you a best example for that, because basically I am an electronics engineer. So I think you know the copper wire. The copper wire, so it's a material. So how you are going to use in an electronic, make it as an electronic component, because if you put it, make it as an electronic component, and then that becomes a wire, copper wire. You made the wire to move the electrons from one place to another place by just applying a current. This is how you can use the copper wire. This is a one. Now the same copper wire, you can make it as a different device. How can we do the basic component, electronic components? So as you know, the resistor and the capacitor and inductor, so many electronic devices are available. So how you make the simple copper wire into the three components? This is how the discovery takes place. The first one is the innovation. The second one is the discovery. So I can give one example. Take the copper wire, you cut it into the two pieces separated by a air. So that becomes an capacitor. This is how you make the copper wire into the capacitor. The same copper wire, you can make it as an inductor. Just you twist the copper wire into the turns, then that becomes the inductor. So the same copper wire, if you want to put a material, some material in the middle of the copper wire, then that becomes the resistor. So this is how the first one takes place, the innovation. The second, the same copper wire, you make it as a three electronic component. That is what the discovery. So this is a simple example I want to see. So to the school students, so we will make through the coding, through the experimental learning, through the innovation, through the discovery, we will make to understand them very properly, because we are moving into the digital world. So the coding is definitely you need that. So my conclusion is the coding, innovation and discovery is most important to the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore sir. For explaining why coding is important, why that exploring mindset is important, and how we can use resources around us to effectively build our learners' mindset accordingly. So big thanks, Kishore sir. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Now I would request Jaspinder sir, if we can have your ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Rajulji, and good afternoon, everybody. We started in the morning, but we have reached the afternoon. So let me begin with very important thing. Most of the speakers have talked about technology and things like that. I would talk about technology, but I'll link it to training first. See, we understand that, and it has been spoken earlier by one of the speakers, that there's a need to train the teachers before we start training the kids. Very true. But we have a problem. We are trying to teach students who can learn faster than us. Understand one important thing, that the first thing that we need to do is to train our teachers on digital skills before we start training them on their core subjects. What we digital tools to get the right kind of information, to filter that or what is required, and then to pass it on to the students. So that is something that we need to work on. See, I tell you why we need to do that. Understand that I've already, earlier made the statement that we as teachers are technology migrants, but our students are technology residents. They were born with technology in their hands. They are more comfortable with technology. They understand things better and faster than us. So as teachers, we need to gear ourselves and take technology to our advantage. That's something that we need to actually work on. That's the first point that I would want to talk about it. Okay, we have to understand that as teachers, we will not be able to cope up with the speed of the learners. So how do we do these things? So what we need to do is, from a sage on the stage, we have to become a facilitator. I think Ms. Chatterjee did talk about this, that the teachers have to use flipped classroom. Let's understand how this flipped classroom will help us. It is one of the most important things that we need to do. See, NEP talks about research-based learning, creativity, analytics, and all that. How do we bring that to the class? So I'll give you a simple example. Say if today I have a class, you see, and I have to teach on a subject on a topic on volcanoes. What would a normal teacher of current times do? She would open up the book and start delivering. That means she's going to just vomit out what she knows, and the kids will be listening, which is going to be one way. And understand, one way things don't go down well. What I would say, that if there's a flipped classroom, the teacher will come today and announce that tomorrow I'm going to take up a session on volcanoes, and I want each one of you, all the 35 students, to get 10 lines of their own about volcanoes. What happens? The moment the kids go home, straight they'll dive into Google, right? They will Google volcanoes, but unfortunately, they will not be able to find 10 lines. They will find 10,000 lines. So the first important thing comes in, that they filter it out, that what is required, so they read. So very important thing is, please make sure that the students of today learn or acquire the habit of reading, which is increasingly going down. We need to see to it, because in the tomorrow's world, when we're talking about research-based learning, where they have to be inquisitive, they have to ask questions, but not all questions can be asked from teachers. They have to ask those questions themselves and go find the answers. When you do that, you need to have that reading skill. So very important about reading. I'm going to come in when I talk about technology and languages. But here what we are saying is, the students will go, they will filter out and bring in their 10 points. The next day, when they all get together in the class, each child is supposed to get up and present his 10 points. The first thing that comes in, they learn how to present. That's an important soft skill. Second, they learn how to communicate what they have, how do they speak it out. Third thing is, they will listen to everybody and they will learn how to collaborate, right? So you have collaboration coming in, and when they collaborate, empathy comes in, peer group learning comes in, and together from all 10 into 30 students, those 300 lines, then they bring into 10 lines. And the teacher at this time, is all she's going to do is facilitate. That means she need not know everything. She has to facilitate. Ma'am, you did talk about that a teacher has to be a co-learner. This is exactly what Chanakya said. He's supposed to be one of the greatest teachers. He said that a teacher is a person who lets the student know that I know as much as you know, let's learn together. That's where you bring in, with slow learners, you can actually motivate them to go to a level, and they will never feel that they are not the right fit in the classroom. So that's what we say is that we bring in collaboration, we bring in peer group learning, we bring in presentation skills, we get in research skills, and we also bring in the communication skills. So these are the things that we need to do if we employ. So we can just start with collaborations, just start with flipped classroom, and a lot of other things will happen. And what the teacher does is she mentors them. She or he, they will facilitate this. So from a sage on a stage, we have to become facilitators, not only because of the students, that the need of the hour is, because we will never be able to be teachers, because now the students have got access to more information than what we can access. We can access, but as teachers, we have our family, our husbands, our kids, the household work, everything, and same 24 hours. So the teachers get access to more. So we need to learn how to get them together and work onto that. So that's an important point that I've been talking about. Okay. One very important thing is, the other point is, there's a huge need of teacher training. And we say NEP is inclusive. What happens if we don't reach out to all the teachers? How do we reach out to all the teachers? How do we reach out to all the nooks and the corners of the country? So that is where technology will come in. That where teachers will be able to learn, get to know more, and get trained using technology. Understand, if I get a chance, I would propose to the government that please come out with an education network. Internet which is available to all educationists, students and teachers, which is controlled. They don't go to the so-called wrong things, but they get in, make it free and make it available all throughout the country. The moment 5G comes in, it is going to be very easy. And what the government should be doing, and I know that they are planning that they are going to give a tablet to each and every child. So earlier there was a question, I think by Mamta ma'am, that where is the technology? Students may not have, but the government is now planning to give a tablet to each and every child. So if we are talking about, do we have the infrastructure? Now it is going to be BYOD, bring your own device. So students will carry their own device, because your books are going to be a part of the tablet. Your coding is going to be a part of the tablet. Your research is going to be a part of the tablet. So instead of carrying those heavy bags, you will have to do that. But here there's a question of screen time. But I don't think we should be worried about screen time, because screen time is going to be there whether you like it or not. If you're not teaching them using a device, they're watching TV, they're doing something else. So that is what has to be done. But yes, one important point was put up, that if we bring in technology, what about the child's well-being? What about physical growth? That is somewhere that we as educationists need to work on. We need to balance that when they come to school, they have to have that additional physical training and things like that. But understand one important thing, tomorrow's world is the blended teaching world. Teaching has to be blended. Such a lot to do. So you teach in the class, in the school, and students go back home and work at home, and then they come back. So though they are reducing the curriculum, but the depth is increasing. In school, you are not going to have the time. So you will have to develop a culture with your students that when they go home, they have to do their homework. They have to go do research. The way a lot of these IB schools do, research-based learning. That is where we are teaching our kids how to ask questions. Right? The whole point is, when a child doesn't ask questions, how will he know what to think? So that's what we're talking about. So ultimately, technology can be the only solution for a country of our size. You know, we can't have one teacher is to 20 students. It's next to impossible. So we need to get technology and work onto that. Now coming on to where I come from, the language component. Let's understand, because none of the speakers has talked about language, the disruption. Yes, I think Naina ma'am, you did talk about English, what will happen to English. So let's first understand that it is not compulsory for a school to go in for the local or the mother tongue language. They can if they want. The NEP says that they propose that please bring in local language for the benefit of the students. So let's understand why this is a good idea. Imagine a child, a kindergarten child or a first standard child, when he's trying to acquire English as a language, he's taught the core subjects also in English. Here he doesn't know how to speak, how to communicate, and we're teaching the other core subjects. So what should be done? They can be taught those core subjects in the local language. Let's take Hindi, for example, or Marathi, for example, or Gujarati, where I come from, or Tamil in the south, wherever. So what happens is the core subjects are explained to them in that language. So actually the concepts become clear, but at the same time, we have English as a language, local language, and the classical language. The three language concept is a beautiful concept. Let me give you one important thing. Students till the age of 8 can acquire up to 5 languages. We are talking about just 3 languages: the local language, the foreign language, and the classical language. So local language is going to be the language that they understand in their mother tongue or maybe where they stay. Foreign language has to be English. And third, the classical language, which can be Sanskrit. You know, when we realized, when NEP draft had come in, we realized that Sanskrit is going to be a big thing. So what we did was we actually got a language lab developed for teaching Sanskrit. So again, the point comes in, how do you teach a child? How do you make him acquire multiple languages? Use technology. Technology will give them a platform to interact with that language with the other students. So that is what can be taken up. So that is an important part where you bring in technology. And one more important thing, which is very important to note, if a child speaks 3 or more languages, the child's brain works better. Imagine one sentence you put in 3 languages and still make meaning out of it. That's logic. And that's what we have to promote, is what we need to do. English, let me tell you, the demand for English will increase because you can teach them multiple languages at the same time. So we need not worry about this part. The second part is, why do we need these things? Why do we need a classical language? What good is Sanskrit for us? But understand, there's a lot of knowledge hidden within the scripts. scriptures, which is in Sanskrit. The other countries are taking advantage of that. Why not us? We need to get into that. So that's one thing. And then you feel nationalistic, right? Our country needs more of them, and that is what will take our country to the next level. Second, the local language. Not only will you understand things better, but you will understand the local heritage too. We need to know what is there. Everywhere there's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and English, of course, that's the global language. We have to do it. So everybody should be ready for the 3-language system, and that is what is proposed in the NEP 2020. Understand, if the child is able to communicate in multiple languages, they are rated as more successful people. If you're able to communicate, so that is something that we need to push on to. Again, I would like to conclude by saying there is no way out but to involve or have technology as a part of teaching learning. Right? Dr. Raja said that coding is very important. It is not only that if you want to take coding as a career, but you become logical, analytical, and things like that. Your mathematics will improve. So coding has to be, understand one thing, long back, IT training came big time into school, and today we are the IT kings of the world. But right now, China is training all the kids on coding, because they know 10 years down the line, most of these jobs are not going to be there, and most of the things are going to be through computers. So you need to have coding, and people need to think beyond. So if so many kids are learning, some of the other child will come up with a brilliant idea, the way others have done it. So that's something that we need to work on. Technology and communication both play a very, very important role. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. sir, for highlighting the importance of technology, why we need to embrace technology, how it can solve those existing challenges. And big thanks once again for sharing the importance of communication, clearing out those confusions. So big thanks. I'll come back to you with questions. And so with this, we come to the last part of the session, which is the question part. I would be presenting the questions, to our key speakers. I would also request all other participants, if you have any question, you can write in the chat box. So before I start presenting question, I must recognize the presence of Sunita Rawat ma'am, Principal Anuradh Public School, Dehradun. Welcome, Sunita ji, for joining. And I'll just take a minute before we start presenting questions. I'll share my screen for a minute, just to explain what exactly we have been doing at School Lalaji Solutions. I'll share my screen for a minute, and then I'll straight away start presenting questions. School Lalaji Solutions is India's largest one-stop solution platform for educational institutions. We are present in 42 cities, working with around 4,500 institutions. We help educational institutions in 3 ways. We help them in buying the right thing from right people at right price. We also help them in selling their old stuff, like their old buses, generators, furniture. We also help institutions in raising money. That may be in terms of loans or fee financing. Why any institution would need a platform like School Lalaji? You already have your old suppliers, you have your expertise, you believe that you are getting good discount. So why you need a platform like School Lalaji? 2 main reasons. In our country we have more than 10,000 plus educational suppliers. So those you name any category, be it smart class or content, or name any category. We have more than 500 good companies who are offering solutions in those categories. So it's very, very difficult for a school leader to reach out to those people. It's very difficult for your team to meet everyone, to understand their differences, to negotiate with them. And it happens that most of the time we keep on continuing our work, keep on asking the solution from the existing supplier because of the lack of time, lack of a bandwidth. So this is creating problem both for both sides, for those suppliers who have wonderful products and services but are not able to reach out to you, and for you as a school leader are not able to reach out to good people who have innovative solutions, who are coming up with new things. So here we come into picture. We understand your school, your taste, your actual requirement. And then from all these categories, we have good companies. We negotiate with them. We also talk to their previous client just to certify their credibility. So we help institutions in these all categories: smart classroom, procurement, uniform, insurance, diesel, solar plant, language lab, security solutions, furniture, recruitment, music classrooms, healthcare, robotics, STEM labs. career counseling, stationery, or digital marketing, IT solutions, educational tour, generators, learning tools, and finance. And we take the guarantee that will save at least your 5 to 7%. So it's kind of a 5% additional revenue share, additional revenue for the school. Just one example, we saved 2 crore 40 lakh rupees, in just one category, the bus insurance, school bus insurance. We are perhaps India's largest school bus insurance partner. Some major highlights, we did 8 megawatt plus solar installation. We are doing very massive in solar installation. Even during the lockdown, we installed many solars in different institutions. 3,000 bus insurance we did last year, 400 plus smart classrooms, 2,000 plus cameras, 350 plus training program. We organized 56 old buses we sold from one school to other, uniform for schools. By the end of 2021, we aim to reach out to 10,000 institutions. We need your support, your guidance, your blessings. So I'll end my talk here. So big thanks once again. Now I would request Mamta ma'am, if I may present the first question to you. Mamta ma'am, do we have your presence?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Rajul Pratap.
Right, ma'am. This question has come from Ms. Akhilesh Shelly. Akhilesh is a PGT Physics with Delhi Public School, Dehradun. The question says, if you can highlight 2 or 3 major points, how this national education policy is different from the old education system.
See, when I was explaining my point of view, if you remember, Mr. Pratap, he added it that earlier also we were doing the things in the same way. It is not like that. I mean, it was the policy. It brings out altogether new things. But obviously, education, languages, they are ever-changing processes. With the with the passage of time, we keep on changing our dress patterns, our hairstyles, and also education is one of the biggest demand for the formation of society. So why do we want to compare it with the old system? Why not to adopt the new things which are coming up? Obviously, in terms of technological independence, in terms of revolutionary classrooms, it is different. Obviously, it is different, and more planning and more effort is required on the part of leaders and the teachers as well to cater the best to the students. So it is now it is a shift, a paradigm shift from preaching to teaching. So this is one of the things which we must consider. So Mr. Akhilesh, I believe that we need to find out on our own that where were we lacking and what do we need to improve, improvise, change, and beautify in this new system. So there are many things like which are offering us the new platforms, new horizons of learning.
One
Right.
thing, if I can add, it is from a teacher-centric, it is going to a learner-centric. So the students have got more flexibility onto that. So this is one of the important changes, Mamta ma'am, if I may add on to that. Yeah.
Right. So next, I would request Naina ma'am, if I may present this question to you. Naina ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go.
Right. So, this question has come from Mr. Nikunj Naina. Nikunj is a customer relationship executive with the Tech Mahindra Business Services. Nikunj is from Thane. The question says, how would schools incorporate drama learning in the curriculum following NEP 2020?
Well, it's a relevant question. Thank you, Mr. Nikunj. It's an apt question for all the principals out there and those who are listening us. I think this education system, this policy has come up with a very different mindset. As I told you in my speech, that whatever we did when we were in college after our graduation, whatever we did after our graduation, we professed it as a hobby and then it turned into a profession. But now this education system is giving you a vibrant knowledge, as agreed, as I think Mr. Jaswinder sir will agree with me, that it is very vibrant and it is developing a sense of, you can say, a different responsibility, fundamental rights, and it is instilling skills, values, and that is supporting the new genre. This the new set of the students which are come up with so many skills that are innate talents that are not, that were not encouraged in the old 19th century skills. But now we are, thanks to the new setup and adopting this new academics, I think this respect for diversity and the local contents curriculum, the equity in and inclusion in the decisions of education, and the community participation, you can say, it is facilitating and encouraging philanthropic, private, and community participations into studies now. It is more than rote learning, as I said, it is conceptual learning, so which gives creativity a very major aspect. So I guess all the schools even could think on this, and I think theater and drama should be incorporated into academics to bring out, not necessarily everyone will go into theater or films, but yes, it will help them out to stand out of the box and become confident into public speaking and stand a major, you can say, upon a smart Indian, yeah, in the international market. So I think from my end of view, I think you all will be agreeing with this, that I think Mr. Nikunj, your answer is, you are satisfied with the answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Naina ma'am. I'll come back to you for your concluding remark. Now I would request, Kavita ma'am, if I may present this next question to you, Kavita ma'am. Kavita ma'am, do we have your presence? Okay, I'll present the question to Soumita ma'am, but with this I must recognize the presence of Rashmi Goyal ma'am, our principal, the Sapient School, Harbatpur, Uttarakhand. Welcome, Rashmi ma'am, for joining. Big thanks.
Thank you, sir. Though I'm very late, but thanks. It's interesting.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. The question is from Rahul Chamoli. Rahul ji is a PGT Physics with Delhi Public School, Dehradun. The question says how NEP changed the situation of. I'm also posting the question in the chat box. The question says how NEP changed the situation of Indian NEP. I'm sure he wanted to write something else, like things already working in other countries till they come India for taking good breaks. How this NEP helps. So what I understand from the question, let's say we have a good policy in place. Now we are producing good learners. But the question says there is an environment that good people who are coming out of our education system, they'll go outside, outside India. So brain drain will take place. So what is the benefit of, implementing a good education policy? Or how that brain drain problem will solve? Yes, Soumita ma'am.
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question. But before I go into answer this question, I would request the teacher concerned, sir, if you would go through the NEP very carefully, you would see that it not only talks about changes in the curriculum and pedagogy, it is also laying a lot of emphasis on employability skills. And therefore, I'm sure the policymakers must have kept this in mind to create more opportunities for employment also for the children who would be coming out of the education system with these skills. Therefore, the primary reason for brain drain, one of the primary reasons I would say, was definitely lack of opportunities in the country itself. But then we have seen over the past few decades, there has been a lot of joint ventures, lot of MNCs coming into the scenario, and then the economic scenario has also undergone a lot of positive changes. And therefore, I think when we empower our children with these skills as envisaged in the new education policy, they would only add to the skills and the employability of our children. And therefore, brain drain would not be a necessary outcome of what you are trying to envisage it as. Rather, it would equip our students better. So whether they are working here within the country, whether they go abroad, they will be more equipped, more empowered to adjust and adapt themselves to any working scenario. And if you remember, while I was talking, I had also mentioned that The new education policy also encourages us to bring the real world and the workplace into education much earlier, and then also take education to the working world. So this, this whole concept of bringing the working world in sync with the classroom in itself will make our children much more equipped, much more ready, future ready, as I said. And therefore, they would be also able to find satisfactory employment opportunities for them within the country. I think that must have answered your question, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure Jaswinder sir has a very revolutionary response to that. So sir, I'll be coming back to you. Jaswinder sir, I'll come back to you. But a big thanks, Soumitra ma'am. And the whole response is that this NEP is going to change the environment in the country. So that would help in all the aspects, not just in one particular. So before I go to Jaswinder sir with the same question, I must request Kishore Raja sir, if we have your presence, we'll take questions from the chat box.
Yes.
Kishore sir, if we have your presence. Yeah. This has been asked by Ms. Pushpa from Delhi Public School, Dehradun. The question is, nowadays we have seen the tendency of children moving to foreign countries for higher education. So will this policy reduce the migration of students?
I think we are moving toward the at par with the world. I think that's why everything the NCP is bringing into that. So the migration will be less in my perspective, in my view.
Right. So it would create, and it would NEP is certainly talking about creating institutes of eminence. It is also creating it is also talking about bringing good institutions, international institutions to our country. So I am sure is it directly taking care of that question.
I think the educational system in the college level or a university level, we are moving into the industry 4. So everything is coming to the school and the college in India itself. So
Right.
the migration, I think after 5 years or 10 years, definitely going to be very less.
Increasing terms, right. Thank you, Dr. Raja. And now I would request Jaswinder sir. Sir, I would like to have your quick response on that, brain drain part. And then again, you come from that world of languages. How do you see the evolution or the position of English language 10 years from now?
10 years is too long a time to look at that, because technology and the way things are working, they change very fast. But first, let me answer the first part of the question. Brain drain. Somewhere this brain drain has brought a lot of foreign exchange to our country. So let's stop calling it as brain drain. It has got us a lot of, people, the way they look at us Indians is not because what we are doing in India, is because what Indians are doing outside. That's one important thing. Second thing is, let's look at why is there the brain drain? Because at that time, earlier, we did not have the best of institutions. Now we have good institutions. So, the people who go out are people who are not getting admissions in the best of institutions. So the right thing to do is to have world-class institutions come to India, so that Indian institutions in competition become world-class. So it is not that, you kill the cat. You actually develop things so that people don't go out. So it is not about education. It's about the infrastructure and the delivery. It is not about why are they going and working outside. Most of these people go out to study because they want to stay there. Why can't we create the right kind of jobs there? And I'm sure with the way our country is progressing, both technologically and in the other senses, there will be a lot of opportunities here in India. And if you look at India, is the has the second most startups in the world. So brain drain is not happening. Second, if the brain drain doesn't happen, we have so many people, what will everybody do here? Right? So let that brain drain happen. It is nothing wrong in that. So that's what I think about brain drain and the way people look at it. Coming out onto the point is, where do I see English after 10 years? Are you trying to say that because of this local language, is English going to lose its importance? No, it will not. Okay, understand one thing, that we as a country are already the back office of the world. We are becoming the factory of the world. We are planning to be the service center of the world. And we need to communicate with the world in the language that they understand. So English is that language which is the language that the world uses. So English will not lose its relevance or importance. It will go further and further. 10 years is too long a time. I'm talking just 2 years, 3 years. as soon as NEP is implemented, people will realize that, okay, we are focusing on the local language because that local language needs to be respected. It has to be given its due response, due respect. The classical language, our old languages, our heritage languages are also important. We need to give them the respect, but that does not mean that you reduce the respect or the prominence of a certain language. If I have to give you an example here, I have got 2 pencils, right? If I want to make this longer, it doesn't mean I shorten this. I have to make this longer. So the respect and the response, or the whatever we need to give to our languages, that has to be worked on rather than cutting down on English. English can never be replaced because it is already the language which the world has chosen. So nowhere do I see any dent. I think I see it becoming more and more prominent, because if we are talking about technology, if you're talking about internet, everything is in English. We just can't go and tell the other world that put in your data in Hindi. So relevance is going to become better and it's going to be more relevant. So everybody should know this language other than the other 2 languages. So 3 language, that's how it works.
Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Jaswinder sir, explaining in good detail. Now, a big thanks to all the key participants, Mamta Pandey ma'am, Naina ma'am, Kavita ma'am, Somita ma'am, Raja sir, Jaswinder sir. With this, we come to the end of this very, very special session. But before we end the session, I would request if we can have your concluding remark. We have also established one very interesting practice that while sharing your concluding remark, if you can also suggest some thoughts, some ideas that you would like to implement if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of our country, right? So what would be your priority? Let's say you become Minister of Education for one day. तो क्या आप मोदी जी को जाके कहेंगे ये हमें करना चाहिए एक दिन में? So I'll choose people randomly so that you cannot fix your answers. I would request Kishore Raja sir, if we can begin with you. Your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Union Minister of Education for one day?
It's a very difficult question. I think my motivation, my belief is, I think I want to inculcate the innovation ideas to the children level, at school level. That's the first thing.
You would like to encourage innovation among children. So it's very
Yes.
generic, Kishore sir. कोई आप एक एक्टिविटी कुछ बताना चाहें कि स्कूल को ये करना चाहिए? Because you are a researcher, you are from that research community.
Yes,
So
yes.
कोई एक activity, we have so many educators here, education leaders here. So one activity you would like to suggest to all the school?
Experimental learning, I think that should be coming into the school level. So that is what I want to do. That
Experimental
activity.
learning.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Kishore sir. And now I would request Jaswinder sir, if we can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Okay, so when we talk about concluding remark on to what we have discussed today, I definitely would want to point this point that NEP 2020 is a great policy. There's a mammoth task ahead of us, but what we need to do is not get worried about how and what all we have to do. Take everything piecemeal and take it one after the other, and I'm sure slowly and steadily we'll be able to achieve what is required. The government has made the policy. Now it's up to us how we implement it. Everything goes on to implementation. So that is what I talk about. That let's go piecemeal and take it up positively. This will work. This has to work. We better make it work. We don't have a choice. If you want to achieve that Vishwa Gyan Guru sort of a thing, which is a very tall task, but Indians are known to do the impossible. So I don't think that should be a problem at all. Okay. Second thing, coming on to what would I do if I were to be the Education Minister, Union Education Minister? My first and most important thing I would say is, if we take it in context of NEP 2020, whatever kind of policy we may devise, whatever infrastructure we may bring up, whatever expense we may do, this policy will not be able to implement unless we train and we have the right kind of teachers as a part of this thing. So it's very important that we get to it, that the right kind of people join the education industry. It is not that, a teacher should become a teacher by choice, not by force, that I don't have anything else, let me do a part-time 4 or 5 hour job. No, that doesn't work. So NEP 2020 has got that integrated B.Ed course, which is good. Right after 12th standard, you say, okay, I want to be a teacher. Let me put all that I have to be a teacher. That's something important. But for that, to get the right kind of people, the right kind of salaries. Teachers need to be paid well. Second, they need to be respected. The respect has to be there. So if I become the education minister, I would make teachers as a first-class citizens of this country. First-class citizens of this country. Let me just share with you something which happened just a fortnight back. One of the Scandinavian countries where the doctors and the engineers are paid less than the teachers, they went and approached the government that why are we paid less than the teachers? You know what the answer was? The answer was because you are common people, and teachers are not common people. They are the people who develop you. They are the people who make you what you are. So never compare yourself with teachers. And that is the kind of thing that we want to bring into our education system. Respect them, pay them well, see how the world changes, because that is what brings in. An empty stomach doesn't work for anybody. And without respect, nobody delivers. So if that is what we are able to do it, if that is what we are able to achieve, nothing like it. So that is where education starts and ends. Policies will happen, they will change, infrastructure will be there, it will be improved, but not without the right kind of teachers. So what I have done is, I'm going to request all of you to, I'm going to share a screen. Ms. Chatterjee, Naina ma'am, Rashmi ma'am, Mr. Kishore, Mamta ma'am, I'm going to share a Word file. I would just want to talk about something. You know, I'm on a mission. I am on a mission. See, as a company, we are into education. We work with schools and colleges. We work with more than 1 million students every day. But all throughout this, working 13 years into this industry, I've realized that we need to recognize all the educationists. We need to recognize. See, all doctors, what they do is they write a DR in front of their names. A chartered accountant will write CA, an engineer will write an ER. Why don't we write an ED in front of our names? So what I propose to you is, please, each one of you write an ED in front of your names. Okay. So this will let the world know who we are. And I have taken the liberty of writing this down in front of your names. So what we are saying is, let us have this point up. Thank you, ma'am. Let people recognize who we are. We are the teachers. We are the nation builders. Let's not wait for the government to bring this up. Each of you, if you can write an ED in front of your names, and let your teachers also know that they are educationists. You see, once you're labeled as something good, you will do good, you will never do wrong. That's the human psychology. So see, this can't be done by one person. I'm trying to use various channels. Everywhere I go, I put this same thing. Every time I talk about this, if we are able to do that, our teachers will be gurus. And we don't need just anybody. We need gurus to be a part of it. So that respect, this modern age respect, will bring the right kind of people into the industry. So that's my concluding remark and a request to all the present educationists. If you could help me do that, great. It is our mission, not my mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir, and best wishes and congratulations for this wonderful mission, and best wishes. You have our support, and thanks for your participation and your remark. Now, I would request Mamta ma'am, if I may request you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
I believe much of the things have been spoken by Mr. Jaswinder. And what I feel that there should not be, that step behavior with the government schools, and private schools. Schools are schools only, and they are catering education. They need to be taken up, in the same spirit. They need to be supported well. So if I would have got that kind of the opportunity, I would definitely work on it. That whatever we wish to implement, we want to see as a result, the seeds are to be sown for that. That is needed. And as far as the best practices are concerned, our innovations are only our best practices. Whatever we adopt, it can be even small thing. It's not like some kind of big task. If I say of my school, it's situated in that rural background. So their communication is a problem. The students, they have the kind of the slang. So we started with a small, communication class in the morning for 10 minutes, and slowly it took pace, and it really brought improvements in the students. So it can be anything and everything which can be an innovation, and when it is practiced for a long time, it becomes the best practice. So this is what I feel like sharing, and Mr. Jaswinder Singh, so this I mean, I really wish to join it, and I would say my teachers, you know, to add on this educator. It's really something beautiful which we can share it with the teachers. Teachers usually they feel good with this kind of appreciations.
Yes,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much. I mean,
Thanks.
it was lovely listening to each one of you.
Thank you, Mamta ma'am, for your wonderful remarks. And, big thanks for your participation. Now I would request Swamita ma'am. Swamita ma'am, if I may request you the same, your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Okay, so as far as concluding remarks is concerned, I would just say one thing. Let us all join hands together in celebrating NEP 2020. Instead of being skeptical, let us let us take the liberty of personalizing the NEP, tweaking it a little bit to suit our needs and to make it more comfortable for us to implement into our schools and our classrooms, rather than being challenged, rather than being doubtful, rather than being inhibited by that document. Let us all be empowered by the NEP, rather than considering it to be a hindrance or an obstacle or a challenge. And as far as my policy would be, like, if I get a chance to be in that commanding position, well, I would add to something which Mamta ma'am was just mentioning, that we have seen in the Western countries or even in the other developed Asian nations, public schools have a great dignity and confidence, which is lacking in the Indian scenario. For us, government schools are, a little taboo. Okay, people who have resources would not like to invest their resources in a government school. I would like to change this scenario completely. Therefore, again, no distinction, no classification, no barriers between a public school and a private school, and let us set yardsticks for measuring good schools only by performances, and only by the qualification of the teachers, and then not by infrastructure and other outward. That's all. That's my take. And thank you, everyone. It was really encouraging to listen to all of you.
Thank you, Swamita ma'am, and big thanks for your participation. And now I would request Naina ma'am. Ma'am will conclude the session with your remarks. And what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education, Naina ma'am?
Well, I was just waiting to answer this. I would really love to become Education Minister Union for one day. And as my all the friends have covered all the things and I cannot repeat, so I will say something new. For me, if I get a chance to become a minister, first of all, I will keep the child in the child lively. I will like to keep that alive. I will not like them to be engrossed with the coding and the smartphones and all these things. They are necessary. They are necessary. I'm underlining it. They are part of our future. Our students are our future. But at the same time, when my child looks 50 years ahead of his life, he should not be engrossed with apps, but he should have something to cherish, something that he has utilized his childhood, because we don't get our childhood back. I want each Indian child to remember what he has grown up as an individual. These moral values will make him stand out of the box if he goes to UK tomorrow, or if he stands at a conference representing India. This will work for him rather than all this. For me, grades, for me, marks are secondary. For me, what is important is the confidence that he will carry that he is an Indian, and that will come, his Indianness will come only when he is multi-talented with many friends and he plays on the ground, he dirties his clothes, he comes home and he does his work at home too. So for me, patience, kindness, sacrifice, being a good human is very important, along with being a good student. So this is what I will encourage my student generation of India. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Naina ma'am, and big thanks Absolutely, and you truly deserve to become Minister of Education. You have already developed that style of delivery, with suits, Modi ji's delivery. So, big thanks. So once again, big thanks all the participants, Mamta Pandey ma'am, Naina ma'am, Kavita Singh ma'am, Somita ma'am, Kishore Raja sir, Jaswinder sir for participating and joining. Big thanks. We'll end the session here. I also thank other participants. Recording of this session will be available at the given link. Big thanks to all the participants once again. We'll end the session here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Shilji, you have asked about the certificate. We'll organize a different dedicated ceremony for the certificates. We'll update all the participants who have registered. So certificates will be provided to all the registered participants. We'll organize a dedicated and separate ceremony for that. And thank you for your participation.
Thank you, sir.